got a long, long way to go. But to getting there is the best part if we take the right road. I'll drive if you navigate, we can split the tolls. We've got a long, long way, a long, long way, a long, long way to go.
I'm here live with Bob Karwin today. That was what was the name of that song there, sir?
That was called "A Long Way to Go" by one of my favorite musicians,
Long
myself.
Long Way to Go by Bob Karwin.
Yep.
One of Bob Karwin's favorite songs. Hey, listen, that's that was a pretty cool song to lead off to this interview with you. I appreciate you being on with me. It's my pleasure to come and talk with you on behalf of some of the citizens of Menifee. So let's start off. Let's talk to me about yourself, and we know that you're a councilman of Menifee. So let's know what we don't know about Mr. Bob Karwin.
Well, I've lived in Menifee for about 20 years now. Married, got 2 kids. Both of them went up all the way through elementary school, middle, high school, and graduated out of here and went off to college, one in Indiana, one in Illinois.
Okay.
I'm an attorney. I went to University of San Diego School of Law, and I graduated there in 1997. I've been here I've got an office right here in Menifee on Bradley Road. That's where we are right now.
Yep.
And I've been here since 2006, representing the good people of Menifee. And it's been a long, long time that we've been doing it, and it's building, and it's been great to be a part of this community. In 2015, there was a spot that opened up on the Planning Commission. So I submitted an application and got appointed by John Denver to serve on the Planning Commission, served there for 5 years. And in
The John Denver.
well, a John Denver.
A John Denver, 10-4, got it.
That's right. And then in 2020, our city councilman for District 1, Greg August, was termed out. He'd served his 2 terms, and he came to me and he said, "Hey, would you think about running and filling the seat and keeping the momentum going?" I said, "Yeah, you know what? Absolutely." So I ran. I was elected in 2020. And then just in this last election in 2024, I was reelected for a 2nd term, and here we sit.
So I mean, it sounds exciting for you. So you got a lot going on. Very embedded, it sounds like, in the city of Menifee, with a lot of already tremendous amount of work put into it. But like the themes, like your intro song says, is a long way to go. So been sitting back and chit chatting with you in some of these community pages. Kind of where the meat and potatoes are, I would say, right? Some of your citizens are concerned about this, concerned about that. I sat down with the mayor a couple weeks back right before Christmas, and he addressed a lot of concerns. But I think, going into the new year, citizens are having some of these questions. Like one of the big ones is e-bikes.
Right.
We're talking, it was just Christmas. We probably just flooded the city of Menifee with thousands of e-bikes, right? So what's the legislation looking like that? What's the city council looking like as far as implementing any ordinances as far as city e-bikes in Menifee?
Well, we're approaching it from a kind of a 2-pronged plan. The first, legislation like that starts with our police department. So the public affairs people in our Menifee PD, that's one of the benefits of having our own police department, is they get to decide what would help them, will give them the tools that they need. And I understand that either at the next city council meeting or the one thereafter, we're going to be having a proposal from them on some possible ordinances and for e-bikes. I've also been speaking to the superintendent of Menifee Union School District, Dr. Jennifer Root, about partnering with them to do some things where if they don't sign some certificates of rules to apply to, or get a certification of some kind, that they can't ride it to campus, which would really restrict their ability to do it. And we kind of hit it from both sides, where the parents are at home kind of monitoring what's going on, and at the same time, the law enforcement is able to do some things too. One of the things that I think would help is if the parents realize that they can be on the hook if their child injures somebody with a bike. One of the things we have a bunch of kids who get injured on these e-bikes, And we find that almost in every case, the bike rider is at fault for causing the accident or the collision because they don't know the
They
rules
don't
of
know
the
the
road.
rules, right?
Right. I mean, you can only pedal a bike so fast, but you hop on one of these things going 20, 25 miles an hour, darting in and out of cars.
Right.
And people just don't expect to see it, and that, and they don't wear helmets and those kinds of things. So we're attacking it from two different angles like that, both the law enforcement and from the school home / parent angle.
So it almost sounds like it starts. Obviously, these types of things start at home. So I think the slogan is, it begins with me and Menifee, right? So
Yeah, absolutely.
so for me, it's making sure that my kids are doing it. Yeah, let's see it.
This is my motto right here. Do it without government. If you can do it yourself, then you don't need to wait for us to do anything, right?
Right.
So if we can get the parents on board to get to understand that it's not up to them to just send people out and let us take care of it, they're not going to like the way we do it.
Right.
So parents, if they can get involved from the jump and make sure their kids know the rules and make sure that there are consequences for not following them,
Absolutely.
that would help us out.
Yep. So now, as a parent of Menifee, and I'm guilty of it. I just bought my kid because he really wanted an e-bike because all of his buddies got e-bikes, right?
Right.
But I'm the type of guy, I really do think about my son's safety. I love my son. I don't want him to go out there and hurt himself. So of course he's riding with a helmet. I told him, simple riding rules, stay on the ride, you kind of give way to bigger vehicles. You don't, you're made of flesh and blood, man. And this little thing ain't going to protect you from a car. So, do you think that Menifee will institute some sort of, like you said, in schools where it's almost like, I wouldn't say a mandatory, but kind of built into the curriculum to where it's like almost like a driver's ed course?
It's coming. Well, let me ask you this, though. You were talking about your son.
Yep.
Let me ask you, if you're driving down the street and you see your son on his e-bike and
Yep.
he goes buzzing past you with no helmet on,
Right.
what do you do?
I'm probably going to ground them from the e-bike for a couple weeks.
That's what I'm saying. You don't call the police. You don't call your city councilman. You don't call the mayor.
Right.
You take that into your own hands, and that's what we want people to do first.
Right.
Now, you can't be monitoring your kid all the time, and that's where we partner with parents. But really, a lot of this starts at home. When
Right.
you're worried about how kids are operating out in the world, how they know how to operate in the world starts with what they learn at home and
Right.
what they know is going to happen if they don't.
Right.
So that's great. And as far as the legislation goes, yeah, we don't control the schools, right? So the schools are kind of like their own city within our city. Anything that happens on the school campuses, unless it's a violation of the law,
Right.
is their purview. So we can't require the schools to require things.
Right.
But we are partnering to have ordinances, much like motorcycles or cars or things like that. And we're starting to get some support from the state legislature about it. It's a technology that flooded the market and
Rapidly.
and nobody caught up with it.
Yeah.
You know what it was like? Remember when everybody had those
Hoverboards.
the hoverboards?
Yep.
Right? I got my son one of those hoverboards for Christmas when they first came out. He was so excited, got up on it, hit the thing. The first thing he did was slip and he hit his head on the table. He grazed it.
Yeah.
It could have been a disaster,
Yeah,
but it
yeah.
wasn't. But it was exactly right. It was we didn't know anything about it. Everybody had one. We were all excited, and it was a disaster right out of the gate.
Right.
So e-bikes are more dangerous than that because they go faster and they're basically
People
motorcycles.
tend to put those on the road, where the hoverboards is more of a around the house kind of,
Right.
maybe up and down the block. I know some of them, those like Segway types. You saw some people get on some of
Yeah,
those.
those
things.
don't look cool anymore, though. Nobody wants a Segway
And then
anymore.
was it those the unitire ones where it's just one tire, and those things get.
You ever
to
tried to
zipping.
ride one of those?
No, you
Oh,
have to be very skilled.
That is a skill set in itself.
But how many people can ride a bike? And
Right.
now you're putting mechanized or motorized. I can understand that. So I can understand, like, kids, and this being a hot ticket item, it definitely alleviates some of the pressure off parents to get, certain appropriate age children to and from. Now you have a bike that you don't have to pedal in. It's not going to be so exhausting to get from point A to point B. But that does now pose municipal problems.
So I don't think that we're ever going to get to a point where kids 12 to 16 are going to require a driver's license for an e-bike. I don't think that's really where it's going to go. But we are going to, I mean, with kids, we do require helmets on regular bicycles.
Absolutely.
And we can cite the child and the parent if they're violating those rules. If they're violating rules of the road, we can do those kinds of things. But we need the ordinances in place first.
Right.
So that's coming. And,
Okay.
you know, we have recognized it, we have seen it. And because of the growth of our schools and our population, we're seeing it more than some other places. So it's coming.
Okay. So bottom line
we're
is
on
when,
it.
when do you think like deadline? When do you think we would have city ordinance in regards to e-bikes in Menifee? Like what quarter of 2025 do you think that's
Yeah, I
coming?
mean, it'd be a cop out to say by the end of the year. I mean, a couple of months. It depends on how well the ordinance is structured.
Mhm.
Because sometimes we have a good idea for an ordinance, but it's really clunky or it's overreaching or
Right.
it's kind of unenforceable under state law, those kinds of things. As long as it's being done properly and it's drafted with it's tailored narrowly enough that it doesn't override into other rights and circumstances and things like that. A couple of months.
Right. So this is going to involve or should involve community, come on down. When are the town hall meetings? So for those that don't know.
So our city council meets the first and third Wednesdays of every month at 6 p.m. at City Hall. You can come down there. I don't know why I need to say this. They're free. You know, we don't charge tickets to come to see city council. I wouldn't pay to come to see our city council. Definitely would be the most boring show you ever bought a ticket for. But you can also watch it online. We've got City of Menifee has its own YouTube channel.
Right.
And you can just monitor. The thing about the YouTube channel is that it's not like being monitored for comments or things like that. It's just for watching.
Right.
But if you come down, you can submit a speaker slip and speak to the city council. There's a section for non-agenda items where on any topic that's of concern to you. And then on each of the agenda items that we have planned, you can speak for 3 minutes on any of those as well. So if you're looking to give feedback to the city council, if you don't have the direct line, their phone number, email, or whatever, you can come down to any city council meeting, stand at the podium, you get 3 minutes, and we'll hear everything you have to say.
Yep. So that's your voice. So I mean, I know that I had took that opportunity once. I stood up there. I had a grievance that was rapidly rectified. I mean, rapidly by our previous mayor, Mr. Zimmerman. Um, Put me right in contact with the chief of police.
That's right.
Figured all of that out, and I was left with, I guess we just had some sort of misunderstanding there, was able to educate myself. So it happened pretty rapidly, and I loved the response there. So
Well,
like,
let me tell you this. So when it comes to city council meetings, number one is we can't help people with anything they don't tell us about.
exactly.
Right. So we rely on people to tell us when things are going on. You know, I drive around the district all the time and there are some things that happen and I don't get to it. But the other thing that people don't realize is that at every city council meeting, all of our department heads are there. So if you've got an issue with our city planning department, the planning director is there. If you've got an
Right.
issue with our public works department, the public works director is there. The chief of police, when available, our battalion chief for the fire department is there. All of these folks are there at the meeting. So if you've got some issue, they're sitting right there and they're
Right there.
available.
And
They're
it's
not.
like that fish tank back there,
They got
right?
a little. Yeah, we keep them in a cage and then we let them out one at a time.
Almost like the PetSmart glass with the puppies back
You
there.
pick your favorite director and take them home with you.
Yeah.
But that's so. If you've got an issue with something like that, we can get you in touch. And if you don't know who to talk to, come down and just like what happened at your meeting, you come down and we get you in touch. A lot of times people say, "Hey, look, I've got a problem with." People speeding on my street, and they leave the podium, and by the time they get to the back of the room, our chief of police is up there going, "Here's my business card, let me talk to you," and they get approached. And that's the way to get problems solved, is number one, to let us know about them,
Right.
and number two, to be proactive.
Right. And the follow up was outstanding. So when I had my issue, right, spoke with the chief of police that night.
Mhm.
The following morning, one of your lieutenants called me up to kind of get more information on, my side of things. They had already spoke with that officer, then explained to me, kind of advocated for the officer, and put it in a way that made it kind of more understandable from the citizen's point of view, right? Like, those are your kids in that school, and if so, what, you were trying to look for me. If you did, would you want me to protect your kid?
Right.
Absolutely. So once I'm kind of looking at it from that officer's point of view, and then he saw it from my point of view, we kind of were able to agree that it was just a perfect kind of misunderstanding that resulted in a learning experience. Me as the citizen that had an issue with a police officer could now say, nope, that police officer was doing his job, he was doing it very well. In fact, for me to have that issue, I don't want to go back into it.
Well, no, but I'm glad you brought that up because one of the reasons we started our own police department. It's a young police department. We've only been a city since 2008.
Right.
So in July of 2000, we rolled out our own police department so we could have control over the culture of our police, our police techniques and tactics and interaction with the public, where before we were contracted with the sheriff's department and it was their policies. If you wanted police contact, well, the nearest office was in Paris and your response times were lower just because they were further away. And now we have control over that. But we were able to build a culture and select our officers from the ground up to interact with the public. One of the great things that we do, we have a homeless liaison officer, and Rochelle Hunter. And her job is to ride along with the police, and when they encounter somebody who is homeless or in having a mental breakdown or something like that, she can interact with them and knows the resources and is able to get them hooked up. But she's not there to throw them against the wall and take them down. She's there to diffuse the situation. And that's something we decided much earlier on that we wanted to be able to do. And that carries over in all the interactions with the public. So,
right. And so like when I had that interaction, it was handled so rapidly. The next thing that happened was that lieutenant set up a meet and greet with me and that officer. We went down to the Starbucks right there on Newport, right by the Stater Bros there. He met with me, with the sergeant, had some coffee, and just broed it out, like really talked it out.
I'm glad.
He understood because what was happening was, as a citizen, I was trying to report something that was going on in my neighborhood. Issue that's been going on for, weeks, especially now. It was about the same time around this year with the holidays and packages being stolen off of porches and things of that nature.
Tough situation.
We're sitting there watching them on our ring. Like, I'm in my bathroom using the restroom and someone's snatching a package off my stoop or my porch. My neighbor, which happens to be good friends with the mayor, Ricky Estrada, her packages were taken. It's all over the place. And I'm sure anyone in Menifee knows that this is a problem, and this is nationwide. It's not, to Menifee, but
you know what you do is start packing trash in Amazon boxes and leave them out on the porch.
Yep.
They steal a couple
dog
of those,
poop,
they stop coming back. Yeah.
Keep your dog poop stored in some packages out there. Yeah, that sounds like a pretty good solution. But segueing into that, we're talking e-bikes. We're talking a flood of youngsters on the streets. I think the next big concern is what are these youngsters doing in the city of Menifee that's going to keep them off the streets or, occupied doing age appropriate things or things that are going to, kind of build them up to be good citizens.
It's a big problem. We don't have an entertainment center in the city of Menifee. Like I said, we're a very young city. When we formed in 2008, most of the stuff that you see here wasn't even there then. Even the Krikorian mess wasn't there in 2008.
Right, the big old yellow mess right there.
That's one of the things that we're trying to build. Our former mayor used to use the term social infrastructure, and that's something that we're trying to build up. What we can do as a city is programs. Right, we can offer activities through the city, whether it's sporting events or things like that. But we can't build a bowling alley as a city municipal bowling alley. That's just not something that's a reasonable thing to do. So what we're trying to do is match up open spaces in our city with developers and property owners and things like that to encourage them to come in. It's going to take a while. I mean, frankly, yeah, I understand there's a gap in that, and we do lose a lot of our children's interest to surrounding areas. They go to the movies in Murrieta, they go bowling in Lake Elsinore, and they do all those kinds of activities. We do need to bring that kind of thing in. So all we can do in the meantime is make sure that the partnership with the place where they are the most, schools, is vibrant, and there's a lot of things happening before and after school throughout the city.
Right. So we got some comments from that Facebook 411. Felicia Patterson. I'm sorry if I messed your name up. My fault. So I just gotta. So we have Felicia Patterson that has a comment from the Facebook post. She's talking about things that we can incorporate into the city. I guess when we start looking at some of these things, how viable is it to, as far as getting some parks, new parks, or is there funding for, additional spaces in some of the open places that we have temporarily, maybe, like maybe we're putting in parks in something that maybe for future development, maybe for residents or
Sure.
commercial spaces.
So what I can tell you is currently Menifee has 48 parks. We've got 24 that are owned by the city,
Hmm.
24 that are owned and operated by Valleywide Recreation District.
Okay.
There's a lot of park space in Menifee currently, but the guidelines are that there should be, I believe it's an acre of park per 3,000 residents, and we are under it. We're under the ratio. We're underserved by parks. And as we get new developments, and one of the benefits of having development, and this is the double-edged sword, is that when a housing complex comes in, as part of that development, they are required to build out park space for their residents. So, for example, there's a Legato development going in on Encanto over by Kentucky Fried Chicken in that area over there,
Mhm.
large development. They're going to build a community center and a large sports park and things like that over there. And those things get built by the developers to save the residents money.
Right.
One of the plans we're trying, and this is a hot button issue, is the Cherry Hills Golf Course property.
Yes.
There's a section of that property called the Island, which is between McCall and Sun City Boulevard, McCall and Cherry Hills Boulevard. And it's a big rectangle that's kind of bordered on all sides. We'd love to have that as a park in Menifee for Sun City, because there isn't one in Sun City right now. As these areas get developed, we do infill them with parks, and that is part of our general plan. We're always looking to add more. One of the things we're also looking to do is add accessible parks. We just built Underwood Park, which has accessible features and things like that for children who are, say, in a wheelchair.
Mhm.
They can use the
ADA,
swings.
more ADA
Exactly right.
right.
And those things are becoming more modernized. So yes, parks are something that we're constantly. We have a Parks, Trails, and Recreation department whose goal is to find new opportunities for parks and decide what's best for those areas.
Okay.
So, and if somebody has input on that, I would encourage them to go to the Parks, Recreation, and Trails meetings, which are once a month. And I apologize, I forget what day it is. It's on the website, but they meet once a month.
Okay.
And you can go there and give your input on where you think a good park or what an amenity would be that we don't have.
Right.
one
Even
of
if so now that because that kind of led me into some of the other things. Like there's a lot of kind of corners and unincorporated areas in Menifee. Like how
Well, there
how
are no
hard.
unincorporated areas in Menifee. The city of Menifee is incorporated. The boundary of Menifee is an incorporated area of the city
Right.
of Menifee.
Okay.
So any place that's unincorporated is outside the city of
City of
Menifee, and we
Menifee.
don't have authority. Like across the street from Heritage High School,
Right.
for example, we can't do anything there because that's not our property.
Okay. So that belongs to what? Romo land,
County of Riverside.
County of Riverside. So how does a city like Menifee procure that land?
Well, now when we could declare war on the County of Riverside and then
Let's
march out there
go.
with our PD and put a
Let's
flag in the ground.
go.
But the reality is there are some areas, like, for example, down by Liberty High School. Liberty High School is not in the city of Menifee, but a lot of our students go there.
Right.
There's currently a debate on whether that area is going to become part of Menifee or whether it's going to become part of Winchester, which is trying to become a city. It's currently owned by the County of Riverside. On maps going way back, it was included in the Menifee boundary, but when Menifee was finalized, for some reason, that 190 acres was not included in the city of Menifee. So are we going to do that or not? Do we really want to expand? Do we want to expand into areas where there's no services? Then we have to go and build roads and sewers and drains and those
Right.
kinds
Because
of
there
things.
are a lot of areas that are dirt roads.
Exactly right.
Accessible.
One great example of what you're talking about, I know the mayor has talked about this, is called Cabian Park. It's at the very northern end of Quail Valley. It's just across the border from the Menifee. It's actually Riverside County. So Cabian Park, which is used by Quail Valley, it's a large rural trail-ridden park that is owned and maintained by the County of Riverside.
Mhm.
Would that be great for the city of Menifee to have? Sure, it would. Are they looking to part with it? Don't know. But if there's areas if you live outside the boundary and you've got an area, you can go down to see our supervisor. Chuck Washington is our Riverside County Board of Supervisors representative for this district,
Mhm.
and you can relay things to him, or you can come to one of us and we can relay those things to him. So it's a symbiotic relationship.
Right. So it sounds like there are some little turf wars going on. You
Little bit.
start talking about the east side of Menifee the northeast side, that 74 corridor area where it's kind of, what is that, Romoland, Homeland,
Paris, yeah.
Paris, Sun City. Like there's a lot of confusion on who even where you belong. And it almost sounds like the mayor wants to kind of clearly define that border right there.
Well, it is. For example, the northern border of Menifee on this side of the freeway, meaning what side are we on? The west side of the freeway. Ethenac, the border between Paris and Menifee goes right down the center of Ethenac. So half of the eastbound side of Ethenac leading to the freeway is Menifee. The westbound side is Paris.
Right.
So things that get done along Ethenac that affect both sides, there's a lot of tension between the two cities if they're not working together properly.
Right. I seen that, and you see that in some of these council meetings as well. Paris will come right down there and tell you guys, no,
That's
no, no, we don't know. And that's I guess that's kind of, is Paris kind of do they have leverage on Menifee in that way with certain things?
It's a complicated issue that I don't know how much people really want to know, but the simplicity thing, the simple answer of it is there's warehousing that's zoned along Ethenac. Let me clarify. Warehousing isn't zoned throughout the city of Menifee. There's a strip right along Ethenac, and the reason for that, it was actually set by the county of Riverside 30 years ago in their general plan, because the intent was for Ethenac to be an industrial corridor that's going to connect 215 and the 15. So that was zoned to be intended for industrial traffic, so trucks could go through there, pick up their goods, and go between the two freeways.
Right.
There's no plan for trucks to circulate from there down through the city of Menifee, right? So McLaughlin is the road on this side of the freeway that kind of ends the industrial zone. So below that, there won't be trucks, there won't be warehouses. We're not permitting that. On the other side of the freeway, the lines are a little bit more drawn, but there is also a BNSF train line that goes through there.
Right.
So it's intended for that kind of thing. So when we go to build a warehouse, when we go to permit a developer to build a warehouse on our side, Paris says, hey, well, in order to get there, you're going to have to drive down our side of Ethenac, and we're going to have to deal with the trucks on our side. And so they've brought some challenges to our projects for that, to try to slow that down. And our developers and our city attorneys are working with that. So there's currently a joint traffic study going on between Menifee and City of Paris. Both are contributing to it to study what traffic would look like in the area with all of the entitlements built out. That's coming in the next couple of months.
Infrastructure is definitely going to be a big conversation, especially right down there, and that Ethenac area is pretty broke up.
It is, and it's wide open right now. You drive through there right now; it's just open land, and it's hard to envision what it's like. But it's not like if you go up by the Ontario airport, right? If you're going up on the 15, right before you get off on the 10, there's all of these warehouses over there, and there's trucks, thousands of them. It's not to that scale,
Right.
right? And the other thing is we're looking at trucks kind of dipping in off Ethenac, going in there and dipping back out off Ethenac. They're not going down through they're not going down the freeway to McCall or, Newport or Scott.
Right.
That's the plan, is for that to happen.
So
and
that's kind of where, if anything, trucks come off there, you divert them into the city by predetermined.
the top edge, right?
Right.
And then so they're not really dipping into the residential areas,
Right.
which is what we're trying to avoid.
Exactly.
So we can capture that economy of the business coming in and the jobs and all of that kind of thing without having to disrupt the daily lives of our residents.
Absolutely. So I have another comment off of the 401 page from how do I say that? Blanca Chen. And she's saying downtown area, Oldfield. Like they want, with the mom and pop stores, restaurants, no chain restaurants. So something that's homegrown and cultivated from this area.
Sure.
And a dog park would also be great.
Okay, I'll take those two. First of all, I have 2 dogs that I got from Retrievers and Friends Rescue. I have 2 labs that I rescued from them. They're huge. They're 100-pound labs. Dog park is first in my mind. I was talking about that place, the island in the Cherry Hills. I would love to have that be a dog park. I would love it. There's a valley-wide dog park, which is very large. It's called Aldergate, which is over on the east side of the freeway, which is, I go there. It's nice. We have a smaller one at E.L. Peterson Park, which is separated into large dogs and small dogs. but we could always use another dog park because of our residents, and I'm a big advocate of that. My wife is annoyed to me on to no end because after 4 years, I haven't been able to get a new dog park built. We're working on it. The downtown area. Look, I want to really talk about this. So along Hahn Road, there's wide open land, right? And we're not turning people away. It's not like Bass Pro Shops came to Menifee and said, we want to build this giant thing there and a whole downtown area. And we went, no. We prefer the vacant open land. It's not happening. So the holdup is that because we're booming so much, the owners of that land have jacked the prices up so high that the people who build that stuff, and this is all private industry, the city doesn't build anything for public use. We build for retail use, commercial, residential. We don't build houses. We don't build stores. We don't build entertainment establishments. We build public facilities. And last thing we need,
support all of those things.
Last thing we need is to use freeway frontage for a city hall. That'd be absurd. So it's coming, but it's going to take some settling of the prices before somebody can come in. Now, you say you want a mom and pop pizza shop, for example. You know somebody who makes great pizzas. They want a pizza shop. Great. Where are going to put them right now? We don't have a single vacant space in the city of Menifee that would suit a pizza shop. So if they wanted to build a pizza shop, they got to build a building from the ground up. And if you wanted to start a pizza shop, just you and your wife, you got a good recipe, you're going to build a $3 million building by itself and put in sewers and drains and all of that kind of stuff. You're not. And so what we need first, cities like the beach communities, they've got a lot of that stuff because they've got turnover. People have been there for generations, and then somebody retires, and then somebody will take over the space. And, there'll be a bakery there, and they'll retire, and then there'll be a sandwich shop that'll open there, that kind of thing.
Right.
Menifee is so new, and everybody's doing so well that we don't have turnover yet.
Right. So you don't have that business that, been there for 40 years and now has vacated that space for something new.
Exactly right. Now, I will say, I represent District 1 in the city, which has Sun City.
And I do apologize for the District 4 thing. I knew it was District 1, but when I was typing it in and I didn't proofread.
How dare you?
I apologize.
How dare you?
I apologize,
You did that
Mr.
on purpose
Karwin.
just to undermine me. No,
that's...
I'm kidding. Of course, I know. So we have Cherry Hills Plaza. And a lot of people don't know about it who live in the southern part of the city, but Cherry Hills Plaza has Lady R Bistro, which Chef Rosie O'Connor is an award-winning chef. We've got Melody Thai, which is run by a lovely woman who moved here from Thailand with her family recipes. It's the definition of a mom and pop. We've got Mama's Kitchen Korean Barbecue. We've got all these kinds of small places, a Joyful Noise coffee shop in that same building. So a lot of the things that people are looking for are there, but we just don't know about.
Right.
So there are these things throughout the city. We're getting there, but we just need more
exposure to.
Yeah, more exposure, and then ultimately we need spaces for people to move into, and people need to build those buildings with vacant spaces, hoping that somebody will move in, which is a dangerous gamble to make a lot of the time. But it's coming.
And I guess that would be kind of the consensus. Like, is the city asking these developers to create, like, okay, if you're going to make a strip mall or a commercial space with predetermined, you got big box places like, you might throw a Best Buy over here or this or that. Are you creating lots for these smaller businesses, these local mom and pop businesses, to be side by side in those locations?
So there's two parts in putting together, say, a downtown area. People talk about an old town Menifee, which would be great. We'd love to have it, which I find hilarious that somebody wants us to build an old town. Old town is generally something that you modernize, right? Like Temecula's old town used to be a Pony Express stop.
Right.
That's why it looks like that, because it was an old West town that they modernized. You can't build an old town.
Understood.
But
kind of manufacturing
but you can't manufacture old timey. But when people say that, what they're talking about is a walkable space where there's multiple things. It's become a term of art, right? So you've got two parts at play. You've got the people who want to build you got the people who want to occupy it, and then you've got the people who want to build it. And then the third part is the people who own the land, right? So the people who build the buildings generally don't own the land. The people who own the land don't put the buildings up. They just own the land. They've had it for decades, most of the owners there. And so the developers buy the land from the owners, And then they put up buildings based on what they think they can fill them with. And then once they do that, they go out with agents and try to get tenants in there. That's how development works.
Right.
And at this point, we're trying to get all of those things together. So if you have a great plan for a walkable, and I've seen a number of different developers who've come to us and said, here's what I'd like to put there. Fantastic. I've seen plans.
And you're talking
that are
about
fantastic.
that wash that runs through a pond road, right?
Right.
And then so it would be
From Lowe's north to
Right.
Scott Road. That section there is where everybody, and that's what it's for. So that section there is called an economic development corridor. And it was set aside originally because we wanted to fill it with car dealerships because those things are sweet cash money, just dropping loads of money through the window. And Murrieta and Temecula have those. But we couldn't get our city together soon enough to capture that. So by the time we became a city and then we got all of our ducks in a row,
all the dealerships
They
were
were so
there.
close,
There was
yeah.
no market share value.
they're
there.
not going to put another Mercedes dealership 10 miles from a Mercedes dealership. So we missed that window. There are a couple of dealerships that are still available to us, but for the most part, that ship has sailed, but it's set aside for exactly that purpose. It's never, we're not going to allow it to be houses, right? It's not going to be filled with 40,000 houses. It's designed to be an economic driver. It's designed to be retail. And that's what that property is set aside for.
Okay.
So we're waiting for somebody to come to us. We don't build it. We
Right.
don't order it. It's not like a sushi menu where we say, here are the restaurants we want, here are the businesses we want, and we just get them. Somebody has to want to do it, right? And a lot of things, and I know, forgive me if I'm rambling, but I love
No,
to talk about the
you're
city.
doing exactly
So-
what you need to do right here, sir.
So one of the things that we struggle with as a city is the retailers have their own demographic breakdown and analysis of what they need, what they think they need in order to make their businesses succeed. A lot of that is median family income, population density, things like that. And we fall under those lines. Despite how big Menifee is now, we fall under those lines. Here's an example, specific example. Trader Joe's. Everybody says, we want
Yeah,
a Trader Joe's,
that's
we
a
want a
big
Trader
one,
Joe's.
Trader
That's the
Joe's.
number one. Right. Well, Trader Joe's has a demographic data where their customers have a median family income of $100,000.
We don't meet that.
The city of Menifee median family income is $86,000.
So we're just short of
We're just short.
for
we're
Trader
close.
Joe to want to come put a brick and mortar into Menifee.
Yeah. Now, when you see like Texas Roadhouse opens at 4:00 on a Tuesday, they've got an hour and a half wait. The Best Buy that we've got here, they're closing Best Buys all over the country. Ours is booming. It's like the second most viable Best Buy in
That's
California. Right. So all these businesses are exploding and nobody can explain it because it doesn't match the data that they use nationwide. That's what our economic development team is trying to convince people of. But the people in New York who make the decision, they look at it, they go, what's the median family income? What's the population density?
Right. And where's the nearest other store we got there?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And it doesn't match, so find me someplace else.
Yeah.
That's what we're struggling
So
against.
we're kind of in a bad spot. It sounds like for some people in these 401 pages and the Menifee page and the residents, it's the development. It's going too fast. We're starting to eat up our land. It almost sounds, from what I'm hearing from the current sitting council, is that you guys really want to preserve that extra land, that open space for things that are going to be really beneficial to the city of Menifee. That's what it almost
Yeah.
sounds like to me.
Well, if we were just looking to cash grab everything we can, we wouldn't have set aside. We've got 5 economic development zones that run right along the freeway.
Right.
Southern Gateway, the freeway, the Northern Gateway. And we've held on to these since we incorporated because we're patient and we want things that are going to benefit the city. And the frustrating part is that we want to give the public what they want as far as resources and retail. I met personally with the Topgolf people. I was in a meeting with them.
Man, if you
right?
can get a top
We
man,
can't.
if you can get
And
a
they
top
say no,
golf
we're
out
not.
here.
We're not near enough of an industrial hub. Here's okay. Specifically, Topgolf. One thing a lot of people don't know is the majority of their business is based on group activities, team banquets, corporate team
Right.
building, stuff like that. Well, we just don't have the size of like athletic leagues that generate that kind of activity. We don't have a corporate center so somebody can bring their 15-person management team down every Wednesday to Topgolf.
So one of the biggest gripes I would say the residents have is so much development, but we're not developed enough to have some of these things that we're asking for, like the Top Golfs and the Trader Joe's and all of that. We're
Right.
just not big enough for those entities to want to have any interest in
Yeah,
Menifee.
I call it a mullet of economic development. In that it looks terrible right now, but it's coming. It's
Right.
going to look way better. And so the frustrating part for the residents is that they don't want any more growth, but they want a lot of these
It's kind of having your
amenities.
cake and eating it too.
But we're not quite at a population yet where these amenities are willing to come, and these amenities aren't willing to risk their money to wait for it as these residential properties come in. So we do, in order to bring in the entertainment, dining, and those kind of amenities, the shopping that people want, we still need more residents with higher income and population density, so they feed on each other. And if we
Right.
just stop both, we get neither.
So now I guess there was a next question, or I seen, and I can't find it. I was looking for it. The tech industry.
Mhm.
We have land for facilities to put out microchips, possibly some sort of new like tech industry to where maybe it's not so. I don't know. Is that something that Menifee's looking at as well, or
Yeah,
at all?
absolutely. So we just did a workshop to develop what's called an innovation district. And that's the Southern Gateway. That's the economic corridor. It's called the Southern Gateway, which is Scott Road and that area over there. So where Rendezvous Cigar Lounge is and Exquisite Tapas and all that up Ziders Road, south of Scott Road, you see those industrial buildings over there. Those aren't warehouse and distribution centers. Those are for that kind of thing. For example, one of the residents over there is David's Toothpaste. They make toothpaste.
Okay.
And they sell it internationally, and it's manufactured here in Menifee. It's a manufacturing
wow.
space. So that area is set aside, and we specifically zoned it against warehousing. So it cannot be warehousing currently unless it gets changed. But it's not zoned currently for warehouse and distribution centers. It's designed for manufacturing, technology, that
Right.
kind
So
of
we're
thing.
talking like the Wayfair and the Amazon. And all
Not
of
that stuff. The
Right.
exact- right.
you're-
That
right.
stuff's in the north.
Right.
But that area is where people actually make things, and that would be the technology
Right.
you're
And
talking
that's what
about.
when I was referring to
Yeah.
the warehousing. That's what you're talking about. The Amazon.
That's warehouse and distribution, where all
Yeah.
they do is it's a stop off point
Yeah.
where trucks come and drop stuff there, and from there other trucks take
Yeah,
it to
nothing
other
is
places.
created. Nothing
Right.
is just the throughput.
And we've got a couple of manufacturers, big national name manufacturers, who are looking to bring their businesses a location to Menifee. And along with that will come technology and those kinds of things. Another thing that really helped was in July of 2024, we got a courthouse. Courthouse opened up in the city of Menifee, which now puts us on the map for professional people who want professional offices and the services that they provide, whether that's court reporters or printing of graphics and those kinds of things.
Got it. So
I'm throwing a lot at you. I
no,
know.
and this is awesome. We're talking growth. Menifee is what 113,000 somewhere around there.
It depends on which study you look at,
Mhm.
but yeah, between 113 and 119, depending if you're looking at a projection, an old one, the federal study, the local, yeah, somewhere around there.
And then
We're larger than either Temecula or Murrieta right now.
And that was the point that I was making. So right now, the optics of there's people that know Temecula. There's people
Right.
in Southern California that know of Temecula, but never heard of Menifee.
And what cracks me up about that, so Temecula has this branding, Temecula Wine Country. Wine Country's not in Temecula. Somehow they stole that. And here's the fun part about that. If you go to Scott Road, if you get on the 215 and you go south to Scott Road and you get off there and you turn left, right, and you go eastbound on Scott Road and you follow that, that goes over Winchester and turns into Washington, and that takes you right down into the top of Wine Country. The Zoffo Vineyard, I think, is the first one. And you can actually get there easier from the city of Menifee than you can going all the way down to Temecula and back up again.
So we're the nice little back door.
So
to
we've
that.
got a couple of hotels that are looking to come in right on Scott Road. And it's no secret Walmart is looking to come in on Scott Road and 215. And once those things get built up, Walmart was actually approved by the voters. That's why Scott Road Bridge was widened in the first place, to accommodate their traffic.
Walmart.
And as
An
that
actual super center, or
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah. That will start to divert traffic and availability, because right now, if you want to go to Wine Country from Menifee, there's one hotel. It's Fairfield Inn. That's pretty much it. So as we start to get that tourist traffic, we can build that identity up and things like that. Aside from Wine Country, what is Temecula's identity? Sure, they have an old town, okay.
just like more expensive stuff. That's
they got a
it's
mall that nobody
it's
goes
almost
to.
like it's like they want to be Orange County, like a baby Orange County, Napa, baby Napa, or something like that.
But when Temecula was first built, they never expected anybody to come there because it was in the middle of nowhere. It was called Rancho California,
Hmm.
and then it incorporated into Temecula. But that's why there's no off ramps on the city in Temecula, why it's so built up, because they sold off all that property thinking nobody would ever come here. And then the population started to come up the freeway from San Diego, and then it went into Murrieta, and now they're full. And now Menifee, using the David's analogy, is like squeezing a toothpaste
Yep.
tube. Population's coming here. So we need to get a way to capture that and keep it in here.
Right. So now we're talking increasing. What would be your cap for Menifee? If you were to have a population cap for the city of Menifee, what would you, in the boundaries and what we have going on, what would you say that would be?
Well, I've read, let me start with capacity. I've read that build out for the city of Menifee is about 150,000 people, which is a huge city, right? One thing that people don't know, so we've got 52 square miles. The city of Menifee is made up of 52 square miles.
Larger than New York City, by the way.
All right, there you go. And about half of our roads are still dirt. That's how undeveloped the city of Menifee is.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of space to go. Like when people from New York City say the earth is overpopulated, I say, go to Iowa sometime and tell me how overpopulated it is. Go to Montana sometime. And, you just got to get out of your zone. You got to get off Newport to see how open the rest of the city of Menifee is.
Right.
That being said, we've got some legal obstacles to stopping the development. Specifically, the government, the governor has just passed a regulation that said that any residential developer who wants to build affordable housing can do it. They can override it's called the builder's remedy, that says they can override our zoning laws and build low income and moderate income housing in any zone they want to. So we're not allowed to say no. We can't, under the current laws in the state of California, we cannot zone it properly and then say, but you can't build it, because then it's not zoned properly. They get to override us and do whatever they want. So if we say we're going to put a moratorium on all residential building, what happens is all of those developers say, fine, we're just going to fill your city with apartments. And it's the city of Huntington Beach tried to sue the state of California to override that and lost, because the courts said that the need for housing overrides the need for local control. So we're struggling with that.
So is a possibility that as these developers come in, the city may vote against low income housing or vote for it. And if that happens, they could just say whatever and just put whatever they want right there.
Well, what we've done, and this is one of the great skills of our planning department, there's a thing called the Regional Housing Needs Assessment, RHNA, they call it RENA. And it sets forth how many units for each level of housing the city is required to set aside, space for it, right? So the city is required to have space for 1,700 low-income units. That's 0 to 50% of median family income. And then I think it's 1,000 moderate, which is 50 to 80%. So that's 2,800 in there of available units. They don't actually have to get built, but we've got to have 2,800 units of people that can afford whatever they build there.
Gotcha.
Right? Which is usually apartments or ADUs or something small, accessory dwelling units, things like that. So we've went through and we rezoned a lot of our properties that were of larger kinds of zoning to meet those numbers. If you meet the numbers according to the state, then they can't override it and do whatever they want.
So as long as you're satisfying the state requirement already.
Right. So the state says we need 1,700 units. We need to have space zoned for the availability of 1,700 low-income housing units. And if we do that, and the 4 categories, if we meet all 4 categories, submit it, and it's approved by the state, then we're locked in, and nobody can override that.
Okay.
If we don't do it, if we say we're not going to follow that state of California, we're just going to do whatever we want, then the builders have the authority to build whatever they
Whatever
want.
and then that's going to be based off of whatever they think they're going to be
And
able
then
to
just
capitalize
logically,
on.
if we say, okay, we've met the criteria, we've set aside 1,700 available spaces for affordable housing for low income people, and then when someone developer comes in and says, okay, great, I want to build 1,700 units, and we go, no, we're not going to allow that, then we really didn't set it aside and we're not in compliance.
Right.
So the problem with having the plan is that we have to allow them to build it if they bring it to us.
Right.
And
then
we're stuck.
So now, do those still come down to city like council votes? Like if
Yeah.
if the citizens are like for or really against something that the developer's doing, and we come down and like, no, hell no, we don't want this. And so at that point in time, you guys have that voice to say no, even if they want to do that.
So the process is it goes to the planning commission first,
Mhm.
right? So if a project is in compliance with our zone and it meets all of the criteria, whether we like it or not, but it meets the law,
Mhm.
it goes to the planning commission. If the planning commission approves it, it stops there and doesn't come to the city council.
Got you.
If the planning commission says no for some reason, then that developer has the right to appeal it to the city council, and they get a second bite at the apple there. Really, what our power is in managing what goes there, what it looks like, what the circulation looks like. Are they having enough access for emergency vehicles? Do they have enough park space? Does it meet with our aesthetic? All of those kinds of things. Is it in the right place? And if it is, and then we still say no just because we don't want more houses, they sue us and win.
Got you. Yeah. So I mean, and that's kind of and I can see as a councilman how delicate that balance could be.
You want to change that? Vote in a Republican governor who's going to change that law.
We could talk for days.
What we're really frustrated. If anybody's been watching this issue come through city council, we've talked over and over again about how we are handcuffed in our local control by a lot of the state legislature, especially this one it's called the builder's remedy, where if the city decides to not do anything, well, guess what? We get to do whatever they want anyway. And it really takes away local control. So when we say we don't want any more of these apartments, we want houses, we want single acre lots, that kind of thing, or nothing at all, we don't have that option. We cannot do that. We get sued by the state. And the other thing is, let me just say that the RENA numbers, if we fail to meet the deadline and we're not in compliance, we get fined $10,000 a day
And
by
then
the state.
who takes that?
And the citizens pay.
Of course.
So
it really sounds like a delicate thing. You guys have a lot of things on your plate that I don't think half these citizens understand what it is. It's almost like we think that you just wave a magic wand and you get what you want, but there's a lot of work and stuff that goes into that, and we're talking about growing and developing police department. The Menifee Police Department is not even 5 years old.
Right. July of 2000 is when it was founded.
Okay. And then, so as far as from what I understand, the last thing I saw with a population of about 113, Menifee ranks pretty high as far as public safety.
Top 20 in the state of California.
Top 20 in the state of California, which in the state of California, if you do some research, has some pretty badass cities and towns that probably drop our statistics down. But with Menifee being right here, kind of in the heart of Central California, I would say in Central California, kind of like the center of the wheel where where all the spokes kind of go.
Absolutely. We're an hour from Palm Springs, an hour from the beach, an hour from San Diego.
That's exactly
depending on traffic, an hour from Los Angeles. Yeah.
That's exactly what I tell like my family and friends when I say, hey, I'm from Menifee, and they're like, where's that? Oh, well, I'm an hour from LA. I'm an hour from San Diego. I'm an hour from the desert.
We did this. My family did this one time just to say we could. There was one day, my wife and my two kids, we went up to Big Bear and we went skiing in the morning. We bought the half-day ski pass and we went up skiing, skied till noon, put everything away, got in the car and trundled down to San Diego. And then we went down to Hodad's in Ocean Beach, got a burger out by the beach over there. So we went to the beach and the skiing in the same day. Name me another place you can do that.
Hawaii.
Yes, sir.
All right. And I was just about to say the only place that you could probably claim to do that is in Hawaii.
Okay.
And then I think it's in the winter months. January, February timeframe is I think the only time you could do that. And it's during the I used to live out there, and it's during the pipeline. So these guys would go snowboarding on all the big mountains that got some snow on it. I mean, it's not that much snow, but they can say we went snowboarding and surfing in the same
it's
day.
great.
That's crazy. And then you think about where Menifee is, right? Like we just explained. When I explain that to people that aren't from Southern California, they're like, oh my God, you're an hour from LA? You're only an hour or some change from San Diego, from the deserts. If you like doing all the Coachella and all of that type of stuff, you know, Big Bear, we're 3 hours from Las Vegas,
Right.
with minimum traffic comparatively to other
Our
locations.
flight. Yeah.
Right. We're
37
pretty
minutes.
much, we're a really prime location for a lot of things to happen.
Yeah.
So when we start talking about growth in population, our police force is young. We're looking pretty good as far as the safety aspect.
Mhm.
How do we maintain that?
So one of the best things that we did was institute Measure DD, called the Quality of Life Measure. And I'll tell you exactly why. Currently, the last budget for the police department was $30 million a year. Okay? So if we had $30 million in the bank, it'd be 1 year's worth of our police. So we want them forever. So last year, Measure DD brought in $20 million.
Okay.
So it's 2/3 of our entire police department's budget. And with that, based on that, the combined Measure DD and other sales taxes is about 40% of our city budget. And that goes to pay for our police department. We were able to do that. Without Measure DD, we wouldn't be able to sustain it, because we might be able to collect some money from here or there once in a while, but on a annual basis to keep it going. And then, you know, the police department, at the end of their contract, they want raises like everybody else does.
Right.
And then the other thing that people don't realize when you have a police department is you've got pensions. They retire.
Right.
And
right
then-
now, Menifee isn't really dealing with that
Right.
right now.
So, and
how
then-
many retired police officers do we have in the city of Menifee right now?
I don't.
I bet you can count on your hand.
Yeah, probably. I know our first police chief is retired, but it's an expense that, as the city continues, it grows, grows, and grows, and grows. One of the things we have right now, because we're so young, I imagine, but we have what's called zero unfunded pension liability, which means our pension's paid in full. Our officers are not in any danger of retiring and not having the money covered. We've got a 25% reserve fund. We've got a balanced budget. We've got a surplus of a couple $100,000. So financially, we're very, very stable, and that allows us to maintain our police department where they're not worried that we're going to lose the contract or have to cancel the police or defund the
Right.
police.
I was going to get
something
to that. Like
which
what, when you hear that term, defund the police and all of that stuff, like as a city official, where do you stand with that?
All right. I'm a libertarian.
Okay.
Okay. And so I look at things outside of the rhetoric of the two political parties.
Understood.
What defund the police means is that the contracts have gotten so out of control that they can't be negotiated anymore. So they pull the plug and then plug it back in and start with a new police department. If somebody's got a contract and they don't want to negotiate with you, there's nothing you can do. But if you fire everybody and then rehire from scratch, that's what defunding the police means. That doesn't mean we don't want police. It means we can't afford our current police department, so we need to
So
unplug it and plug
basically,
it back
you're
in.
bankrupting the police department.
Yeah, it's a terrible strategy, and it's something no city should ever do. And it comes up in places where it's gotten out of control because the city government, the officials, and the leaders didn't know what they were doing. We've got a great relationship with our police department, and we just closed out a contract with them to renew the contract for the next several years, and we got a letter of thank you for our negotiations with them. Our city manager, assistant city manager did a great job making sure that they were taken care of. They've got the technology that they need. They've got the vacation time that they need to be rested and well served, so they're not making mistakes on the job. And they show that they've got the support of our city council and the city leaders. And that's what enables them to be so effective on our streets, because they know the city has their back.
Right.
And we do. So defunding the police, it's a term of art. It doesn't mean that people don't want police, but doing it is a real vote of no confidence in your police and your leaders, and it's a terrible thing.
And it doesn't sound like Menifee.
Never, no. We're such a pro-police city here. When the police department started in July of 2004, the first rollout, they did a parade through the city, and there were citizens lining the streets, holding signs and things like that. And our police department, our police officers tell us all the time, we go to places and people are happy to see us. Name me another city of this size where the police show up, people are happy to see them.
Right. 2020. I remember when you guys were rolling those cruisers around, the brand new police cars, and they were the cool looking,
Yeah,
the Tahoes,
they're
and they
great.
were, inaugurating. They were rolling through the city. That was a pretty cool thing, and that's one thing that I can appreciate about Menifee. I was able to move here. Me and my wife and family moved back in 2016.
Mhm.
We moved from Arizona to California, because of the job. We, looking at all the places that we could have moved. I could have moved anywhere in Southern California, anywhere, and I had a pretty good, decent, salary to kind of live in most places. I would say can't do Orange County. A lot of Orange County was out of there.
Cancun, Portugal.
That kind of stuff. But LA was kind of out of the question. But
Right.
like in the surrounding areas, Temecula, Moval, Hemet, and going into the desert, whatever, Corona, when you start thinking about Inland Empire and
Right.
that area and where we fit in there, I was able to come purchase my home here with no problems. Like it got approved, got the house was in the right
That's great.
price range. I was able to utilize my VA loan. Me and my wife come out and now our home is double the amount of what we bought it for.
Right.
So for me, and I'm looking at my investment and what I want to be able to hang on to and pass on to my kids. And I totally understand the veterans and the not the veterans, but the old generation Menifee. I say veteran, like veteran Menifee, the old school. I've been here since
OMs.
since
Original
19
Menifeans.
1904 or 1918, whenever the town was established.
Well, yeah, that whole generation of the Boris family, the Ziders family, and all of those folks who came in and they established what we have here in the area, and it's always been called Menifee. It was just incorporated in 2008. Sun City. A lot of people think that Sun City was a city that we absorbed, but it wasn't. It was an unincorporated area of Riverside County, just like the rest of the area.
Right.
But it was a master plan community that was all in one shot, built in the early '60s by Del Webb. So
Del Webb, that
Yeah.
guy's all over the place.
he's all over the place. With this, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we have the original Del Webb Sun City community right here. in
Yeah,
Menifee.
because you
Just
know that they're
medallions
all
on
over the
street.
place. There's
Yeah.
a big Del Webb community in Peoria, Arizona as well.
That's right.
Big
And when
old
they
one.
built it, it was the middle of nowhere. If you look back on the pictures, it looks like you ever see those pictures of Vegas when they built the first casinos and there's just nothing anywhere around there. It's just like the Flamingo and the Golden Nugget, and that's
Look like
about it.
something like Jetsons. Looks like something out of the Jetsons too.
That's what it used to
Yeah.
look like here. It was Sun City and then nothing. It was just farmland everywhere else. So it's been coming and coming and coming and then after and right when we founded in 2008, that's when the market dropped and all of that stuff, and it's been a long climb back, and now we're starting to get there. We're in our teen years still as a
Right.
city.
Right, and that's it's a beautiful thing to see, because where I grew up, and this is the next thing you see a lot of people talk about. Oh, we need to keep it rural and we need to keep it this and that. I've grown up in urban, where every single piece of that city is developed under concrete and brick and mortar. I've grown up in New York City. I've lived in Chicago. Where you have to travel 40, 50 miles to see a patch of grass.
Mm-hmm.
So, for me, coming into this environment, it's a little bit different of a scene. I see the grass, I see the hills, I see the rural parts of this area. I see, places you can go hiking and, ride your mountain bike. And,
Sure.
I see all sorts of outdoors stuff that can't be developed. Like there's so much stuff here in Menifee that I don't think will ever get developed, because it just simply can't. Because
Well,
of the
yeah, like
the
Salt Creek
geography.
is a floodplain. There's large parts of the Cherry Hills Golf Course property that can't be developed, 140 acres or so, because it's a floodplain. But when people talk about traffic is a problem, but it's a problem on Newport,
Mhm.
and it's a problem for 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the afternoon. My office is here on Bradley in Newport. I can get from here to the other side of the freeway to Menifee Road over there in 5 minutes. I mean, in the middle of the day.
Right.
Right. So in the commuting times, yeah, it's tough.
Right. Rush
Um,
hour anywhere.
It's going to be that way anywhere. But what I'd like to encourage people to do is get out and explore kind of the corners of the city of Menifee, you realize how much open space there is,
Mhm.
how much of it we can preserve. Well, as those things are getting infilled, we negotiate with the developers to build as much park space as we can within those developments, so we have it, and that'll all kind of come together as it progresses.
Absolutely. So we're about at our hour.
Oh
I would
man,
love to keep time. We gotta do it again, but
I love
the
to talk about the city
closing,
of Menifee.
yeah,
I
I do too, and I love hearing a lot of these things. Again, this is for us to kind of learn and grow. A lot of us may not even understand or know what's going on in detail with our city. This is going to definitely be a help
I
there.
hope so. I hope a lot of people start tuning in as
Yeah,
you do a series of these.
I would love to do that. Now, the last question I'm going to ask you is if I was to give you a magic wand and you were to have a perfect Menifee, what would you have? What would you want to see?
The one thing I would love to see is a professional music entertainment venue. One of my favorite places to go is the Coach House in San Juan Capistrano.
Okay.
Holds about 1,500 people. They have a bar and grill inside. You can get dinner and see a show, and they've got bands coming through there. A lot of people who were like on American Idol, or people who were famous in the 70s, or tribute bands, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's a great venue. It's intimate, and it really creates that kind of environment. There's a lot of musicians that are going back and forth between San Diego and Las Vegas
Let's
and
catch some
drive
of that.
right by
This
us.
would be a perfect location.
Exactly
Almost.
right.
Now, would you be open to something like music festivals like Coachella?
Yeah, and so one of the things we're doing right now is we're building an amphitheater in Central Park.
Right.
Coachella, I don't think we've got the space for something like that. We
Right.
just don't have wide open.
Or
'cause
maybe even like an annual jazz or blues
Right,
festival.
so-
That would be awesome.
in Central Park right now, and this goes back to what we're talking about, what the city can do versus what private development does. What the city can do is build city facilities, and then things can happen there. So we're building an amphitheater. It's going to be gorgeous, this huge shell. I don't know if you've seen the pictures of it, but when it's done, it's going to be a professional hatch shell entertainment venue, and we could put 500, 1,000, 1,500 people out there, standing room for a show, and you can fence it off and you can sell tickets, or we can put on things ourselves and have a music festival.
Right.
We've done things like that at Wheatfield Park, but that's not our park. People say, well, why don't you just do it at Menifee, Mount San Jacinto College?
That's
Well,
not
it's not ours. That's up to them to let us use it, but this would be ours.
Right.
And that's something that I love music, and I love going to see live music, and that's something that I think that we could really benefit from. So that's my magic wish for the city of Menifee, is some sort of large scale entertainment venue like that, where we could bring in that level of entertainment.
So the city of Menifee would own and operate this venue?
It is, yeah. So it's in Central Park, and it's a hatch. A lot of cities have it where they've got a stage in the middle of a park, but this is going to be beyond that. It's a overarching stage. It's like 30 feet tall, and it's a professional stage. It's going to have green rooms and soundboards and all of that kind of stuff that we could bring in really professional level entertainment. And we can build that out with festivals and shows and Shakespeare in the Park and all that kind of thing can really happen right in the center of downtown. It's right around the corner from the courthouse.
So it'd be something like, say, Joe Schmo citizen wants to promote, or not promote, but promote a show, or
Yeah.
he's a promoter and he wants to bring in a some rock band or whatever.
Yeah.
As long as it fits the codes and it's
You could rent the facility, and there's going to be curfews and things like that.
Right.
But yeah,
content type restrictions, maybe.
Yeah. So until somebody brings in an enclosed private venue like that, which might happen on Hahn Road or down in the Southern Gateway, something like that, until that happens, that's something that the city can do to start that. And if the city does it and it's a success, other people will go, well, I want to cash in on that success that the city of Menifee did. I'm going to bring my own thing and I'm going to steal their business. Fine,
Right.
do it. Bring us a competing event. And then we start to develop it. I think the Menifee area could really be a hotbed for live music entertainment on a more professional level. I'm talking about like cover bands and things like that, which are fun for
Right.
Thursday night in the park, that kind of thing. But I'm talking about actual concert venues where you have live original musicians coming through, and it creates concert environments.
Right.
I would love to see that.
That would be great.
Right?
That would be great. I would go if you guys had a venue where you're bringing in like a Boney James here and there. You got Leonard Skinner coming in 1 month. Like whatever we can get as far as acts and whoever's doing. We got plenty of casinos
Right.
that are doing shows. I mean, I'm pretty sure that another stop along the tour in Menifee isn't going to be anything if we are able to get that
Exactly
venue
right.
together.
So that would be my dream for Menifee. That's the one thing I would put if I could, is an entertainment venue. And until we get something like that, we're working actually towards it with the amphitheater.
Okay. So, Magic Wand, it sounds like you're looking for fine wine and dining, some good stuff there, some a good mixture of things for kids to do. It sounds like the city council is looking for those types of things.
Well, we
Uh,
did partner. One of the things we did was we partnered with the Paris Union High School District to develop an aquatics program over the summer for our kids. So Paloma Valley High School has a pool, that's
right.
recently
Heritage
built,
does as well.
as Heritage does as well. So this year we started our first partnership with Paloma to have aquatics programs run by the city at the Paloma Valley
For
pool
the summer.
for the summer.
Oh, nice.
And then as we learn from that, we might expand it to Heritage, that kind of thing. But that's something that we're trying to give to the kids to have more activities going there as well.
Nice. So I'm gonna have to. I know that you're a busy man. I do appreciate you taking the time, carving the time out to talk with me. We're gonna
Anytime.
go ahead and put up your Spotify so that the people can see. He's got music, guys. He's got music out there. So please, Bob Harwin. He's got a few albums out right now. It looks like Coconut for Christmas is on the top charts there. Never Ending Whiskey Glass. That's the Friday night jam. It might sound like Alan. We
Alan
got
the Taxi Man. It's about a taxi driver I had down at Tortola.
So we got to listen to that one. We might listen to that one on the way out. But you guys, please hit the share button, the like button. And again, guys, I'm trying to bring this content to you guys, the citizens of Menifee. We definitely want to connect with our leaders. We can get on social media and, have a bunch of complaints. We can, get on social media and be, mean and nasty to each other. But at the end of the day, when we were walking in these streets, driving around and having, those day-to-day human interactions in this city, we can look at each other and be connected in some shape, form, or fashion, knowing that we all have some similar goals. We all want the safety of our children. We all want the safety of ourselves. We all want to be in an area that we can prosper and make some good money, you know? So it sounds like Menifee is definitely the place to do that. And our leadership is looking forward to serving us. Thank you, sir, for having me. And until next time, we got to get back together.
Right on. Anytime.